on September 10th, 2020. Cynthia, do you have a flag nearby that you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I don't have one in my office, but there's one on the screen. I think if you look in the top.
There is indeed.
Yes.
All ready?
Okay, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which we stand,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Alrighty. Cynthia, are you doing a roll call?
Yes, I can do roll call.
Thank you.
Joe Zidron.
Present.
Gary McCacken. Not present yet. Doreen Campopiano.
Here.
Chris Kaczynski.
Here.
Susan Ambrose.
Here.
Okay, and that is roll call.
Alrighty, thank you very much. Let's move on to the approval of our August 13, 2020 minutes. Does anybody have any comments about those minutes? I hear no comments, but I have a couple. On page 1, after our roll call, it indicates that I welcomed Chris Kaczynski, the newly appointed representative from Planning Commission. And before we did the nominations, I thought that is when Mr. David Riebenster announced that he chimed in that he was here as well. Is that correct, Dave? Was it right after I introduced Chris? I simply recall because Cynthia, our staff person, indicated that I did not introduce you fully enough, and so I asked her to take over and step in and give you the full introduction, which she did very well.
I don't recall, but I think I was introduced at some point, and I probably was then.
Okay. So would you add the introduction of Dave Riebenster into our minutes, please, Cynthia?
Well, Susan, he is listed under staff present.
Well, we did do an official introduction, just like we did with Mr. Kaczynski.
Okay.
All right. Let me look through this. I had one other comment here. Bear with me. We had quite a few pages. I think we had 89 pages at our last month meeting.
It was a large packet for sure.
Yes, you would know. Well, it had to do with, I'm looking through this right now. It had to do with where is it? With maybe it's not on this page. I'm looking for the page talking about the coastal cleanup day. That must be towards the end. Oh, here it is. It's on page 6.
Okay.
City staff on coastal cleanup day, the middle bullet. I had also reminded you that in the information from the California Coastal Commission that families or anybody could select one Saturday or any other day that was convenient for them.
Okay.
And Susan, this is Chris.
Hi, Chris. Yes, please.
I just have a small change. My name, as it's spelled correctly on the present line, but spelled incorrectly after line item 4 and all of page 5, or all of page 2.
Okay. Cynthia, would you note that and ask Eileen to note that, please?
Yes. Yeah, and I'll go through and make sure that I apologize that I didn't catch that during my review, Chris.
And then,
no
Thank you
problem.
very much for letting us know. I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you.
Susan,
Thank you.
Yes, Judy?
I had one comment, and I don't remember specifically, but I thought it was brought up. So under item, oops, where am I going? Okay, so the Heal the Bay Beach report card, item E. My memory was that because it says the majority of the city beaches received high marks, and that 2 of the beaches landed on the beach bummer list. And I remember we said specifically what grades, because didn't they get F grades?
Yes.
So I feel like that should be in there. And then the ones, because the other ones all got A's. I remember us talking about the grades, but
We did. We talked about focusing on the positives.
right.
Where do you want to insert that?
Well, I just want to say the majority of the city beaches received high marks, all A's.
It was 9 out of 11.
Yeah, so 9 out of the 11 received, and it would be the highest mark, right? Because didn't they get top grades?
I thought 4 or 5 of them got the highest, and then there were a couple in the middle, and then there were the 2 at the bottom. But Dave, would you know, Mr. Riebenster?
I can respond to that.
Okay, Cynthia, I'm sorry. Thank you.
So one beach received a B, as in boy, and the rest received an A, and there were some honor roll beaches, which I'd have to go back and look and see if they were A+, but otherwise, all of them got an A, except 1 got a B, and then 2 got an F.
Okay.
So, and I can add in after the third sentence, she reviewed efforts to address the 2 San Clemente beaches that have landed on the beach bummer list and each received an F grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, but I think also that the 4 beaches, I think those beaches and those grades should be announced because we talked about them. And I think I told you, let's see, Riviera was on, Calafia was on, was it 204?
There was 4 that were on the honor roll list.
Right, that's why I'm talking about the top 4.
Did we list them during the meeting?
I think we did. I think we talked about them during the meeting. We talked about the grades that they had.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, if this is something that, if city council is reading it, it'd be nice if there was like you could even just put like a quick summary table, like,
Yes.
These beaches met the honor roll, these are our top beaches, these were sort of in the middle, and then, these were the ones that we're working on. So
Yes.
that's my only comment.
So
Let's welcome Gary McCacken right now to our meeting. Hello there, Gary. Thank you for joining us. We're just going over the minutes right now, and we're on some comments when we talked about the Heal the Bay report card.
well, I don't know about inserting a table because we didn't really discuss a table. The minutes have to reflect what was actually discussed. So
Okay.
what I recommend is we did talk about the honor roll beaches, so I can list 4 beaches received honor roll, and I can put those in parentheses if you'd like. And then I'd have to count up 4, and then 5 beaches received high marks, and then 2. Then the other reference to the 2 beaches that were on the beach bummer list.
Yeah, that would work.
I think that's sufficient too. Yes, thank you, Cynthia. And I agree. We didn't have a graph at our last meeting, so we shouldn't assume that we can put one in at this meeting. But it would be good to even make that up. To make a chart up or a graph up for our future references.
Okay.
Any other comments on the minutes? None? May I have a motion to move them as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second that motion.
And that was seconded by Joe Zidra.
Yes.
Motion was made by Doreen Capopiano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. What was the whole count on that? We were 6-0?
5. We have 5 members.
Okay, thank you. 5-0. Thank you. I've got so many boxes here.
Yeah.
But at any rate, okay. Let us move on then. Back to our agenda, to public input. Cynthia, do you have any emails of anybody that wrote in to us for one topic or another that's not on the agenda?
I did not receive any email correspondence.
Okay. With that information, I will close the public input session and move on to old business, which is our coastal advisory work plan. And this is, we spent a lot of time on this last time. We have 3 that we did not finish. So let us finish the 3. And then we added another one that Cynthia worked on that we agreed towards the end of our meeting. And that was going to be towards doing something about the continued bacteria at Pochi Beach. So let us go to our latest updated version that Cynthia put together for us that you received just a couple days ago. There's 5 pages, and we would be starting on the bottom of page 3 with the Clean Ocean Fee Education and Community Awareness Program. Does everybody concur that that's our starting place? We covered all the other ones before them?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the Clean Ocean Fee Education and Community Awareness program, are there any comments about what is written there? Is that the way that you recall us discussing this from our past meetings? Do you have any other notes that you wanted to add? If now, or language that you wanted to amend or change, now is the time to add those in, or remove words and think of something more appropriate. Does anybody have any comment? If we look at the purpose, create community awareness and education about the Clean Ocean Program and associated fee. That's straightforward. The next one, goal, review renewal fee allocation and proposed fee, assist in developing and implementing a Clean Ocean Fee community outreach program. I think that's also very straightforward. Anybody can put their light on if they want to say a comment. And the last one, the deliverables, is mostly data collection, as you can see, tracking the number of people reached. Well, I'm not sure how people reached. Do you mean attending there, Cynthia? Or would they be responding in some fashion?
Well, if at some point in time there was an opportunity to have in-face tables at education outreach events, we could try and track how many people came to the table to get information. We could also, through media outlets, like for advertisements in the newspaper, there's data that we can collect on how many people, impressions, people that may have seen the ad. So there's different ways to track that information.
All right. I think that's satisfactory. Does anybody else have a comment about our project, the Clean Ocean Fee Education and Community Awareness Program, and any of the elements that are in there? Please note that Cynthia filled in the gaps there on the estimated project cost. There are funds in the budget. There's a timeline established from fall to 2020 to the summer of 2021, which falls into our fiscal year. And resources needed, staff hours, 4 hours per event. And, well, you're also going to be looking for volunteers. We should probably add that in there. Outreach table supplies. You've added the tables and the supplies, but not the people to staff. Other than staff hours for 4 hours per event, we're probably going to need initial volunteers at different kinds of events. So I would just add additional volunteers as needed. Is everybody in agreement with that? Any comments?
I think that makes sense. What is the triple P acronym up there?
PPP. It's under deliverables.
PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, okay.
I can spell that out.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I've just never seen it abbreviated that way. That's cool.
I think it usually might be PPT, but anyway,
I actually think you should spell it out.
I'll spell it out. Yep.
And then Cynthia, just a grammatical thing at the very end, resources needed under, there's a parentheses started with canopy, but there's no closed parentheses.
Okay. And thanks for catching these typos because, sometimes I don't see them. Okay.
Okay. All right, are we good on this one? I'm going to just ask you one by one, so we have this on record. Doreen, just say aye if you agree that we can move that
Aye.
the local coastal, the Clean Ocean Fee Education and Community Awareness Program with the changes that we made is now appropriate for you. It's acceptable to you. It's better language for me.
Aye.
Okay, Gary?
Aye.
Joe?
Yeah, I am good with it. So I guess the question, are these projects on the plan, are they in any type of order in terms of prioritization, or is it just, this is the plan?
This was not prioritized per se, because we
Okay.
don't know in terms of timing and the pandemic what we'll actually be able to do, particularly with crowds of people or with groups of people. So we have to leave them fairly just there as part of our plan and bring them up as appropriate.
Okay, cool. I was just going to say, this is a good one. This seems like a really good one that we could focus on, that City Council would seem to be pleased with. But
Yes, I totally agree, because that was on their agenda, I think last week and the week before when they were discussing budget.
right, but yep, I'm good with it.
Okay, and Mr. Kaczynski?
Aye.
Okay, and myself, I'm an aye. So that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Let's move on to page 4, which starts with community outreach. The sponsored drive-in movie night. And this was, actually, Cynthia, I'll let you talk about that, because we were approached by Beaches Parks and Recreation, who started this program at the summer and was very successful. Would you enlighten the rest of us about how they approached you and to get us involved?
Yes. So Parks and Recreation started the drive-in movie night over at Vista Hermosa Park. And when I saw that event, I contacted Parks and Rec and said, hey, that'd be kind of cool if we could have an environmental movie night, drive-in movie night. So they said, sure, if you're interested, and we thought that would be a good CAC annual work plan item. And so sponsorship is about, well, you'll see there's costs to set up the screen and all the logistics to get the event set up. And then there is cost for the movie licensing. So depending on what movie you want, there's a cost to actually show that in a public setting, usually. And Disney, of course, is usually a little bit more money. So if we're looking at one of a Disney movie, that would be a little bit more. So through Clean Ocean Fund budget and the Solid Waste and Recycling Fund budget, we do have money in there that we probably aren't going to be spending on some of the promotional items. So we actually have money that we could cover the sponsorship, which would be about $3,000. Now, there is Parks and Recreation staff that they would be spending time, but no matter what movie they'd be showing, I think they have it in their budget to accommodate being there to staff. But also, I would be at the movie, and I mean, of course, we'd like to have you folks there too, possibly. So that's the little background on that. But I thought it would be a great opportunity to get the word out about the Coastal Advisory Committee, Clean Ocean Fee. It could be an opportunity to also show like a slideshow or some slides ahead of the movie getting started, or a little mini movie to just make people aware of the Clean Ocean program.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of that, and I think that's a fantastic idea to add on either slides about the Clean Ocean program that can kind of flip through before the movie starts, or even, don't we have that sand replenishment video that someone had made?
Yes, that's an
That's
excellent one.
good.
Around town.
Yeah, so that might be a good one to put on before the movie too. But
I
I
think that's
love
a
this
great
idea.
idea.
I think it's great.
Susan, this is Chris.
Okay, Chris,
sorry.
yes, please.
Should the project timeline be changed? One says one in fall of 2020.
Yeah, we were hoping, we don't know when this work plan is going to get approved. I mean, I think City Council is going to start looking at the work plans from the various committees, commissions in October, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll get to all of them in one City Council meeting. So not sure when this work plan is going to be approved, but we could definitely look at the March, April timeline. So we could change it to just the one in the around the Earth Day event.
Oh, I thought you said BPNR was eager to do something in October.
They are eager, and that's where we'd have to see if maybe get approval from upper management if we could actually sponsor one this fall, which might happen before, excuse me, before the work plan is approved.
On the other hand, Capital Unified, I think, and Joreen, you probably would know, and Dave too, better than I, aren't they having staggering start times for certain grade clusters going back to school with actual personal teaching starting in the end of September through October?
Yeah, ours is not staggered times. Ours are staggered days. So the kids are not all attending the same days on campus.
Okay. But what is the date that begins?
Depends on, so for Capo, elementary school is supposed to start on, I think it's September 20, no, the kindergarten's, so earliest is the 28th, but then there's staggered start dates. So then the youngest kids go back first, and then 2 days later, the, middle elementary grades, and then a few days later, and then it ends up, high school goes back October 13th.
Right. So I was mentioning that because do we want to have a movie in October when all this school stuff is going on? There might be meetings or Zoom meetings with teachers or all kinds of other things.
Well,
I'm just throwing that out there in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, this would be on a Friday, I mean, whenever they host them typically, right? Like on a...
Is it on a Friday night or a Saturday night? Cynthia, do you know?
I do not know which nights, if they're Fridays or Saturdays. I can't recall. But
if it was a weekend, then we wouldn't have a problem with the month.
Susan, is there an issue with having a large group gathering during COVID?
Cynthia, do you know how BPNR handled their movies? I think it was outside at Hermosa, and the cars were parked certain distances from each other. But Cynthia, could you illustrate that a little bit more for us?
I don't have a lot of the details, but yes, people drive in, they stay in their vehicle, and they have the vehicle spaced appropriate distance apart. And that's all I really know. I didn't go, but I don't think people are supposed to be getting out of their cars. I think they're supposed to stay in their car, but I don't have 100% information on that, all the details, sorry. But it's a drive-in movie, so, and there's no food selling or anything like that, so they really should be staying in their car. I don't know about going to the bathroom, if they've got facilities for that outside. I'm sure they do, probably, so I'm not sure how all the details work out.
But in light of Chris's question about fall, do we have enough money to do one in the fall and one in the spring?
I'm not sure. I mean, we could probably cover that and just not buy as much promotional items, because Dana and I do have quite a bit of money, and we haven't been buying anything right now, like reusable tote bags, water bottles, and that type of thing. So, although we would buy some, and even like cleanup supplies, even though that's not necessarily education, but that could possibly go toward it. But yeah, I think we have enough money.
Well, what's the thinking of my committee members? Do we want to make a motion on this? Oh, let me add this too. I had suggested to Cynthia that there should be a short that is definitely environmental, whether it be something from PBS, like one of the, like a program, a small program that's what's happening in other countries or in our countries where students have taken projects and cleaned up their environment, either their plastics or their straws or they've gone solar, or there's all kinds of, or there irrigation programs for community gardens or school gardens. There's all kinds of programs that have been televised on PBS, and in fact, there's a special program that highlights these that we could look to as well, probably. And when and that's one of my ideas. And then to be sure that the movie has some kind of environmental overlay coverage in the movie as well. I mean, not just a Disney movie, but a Disney movie that has some environmental component in it, or a series, or a television program. What are your thoughts about that? Who would like to respond and offer some suggestions or comments about what I just said?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think you've got to offer a movie that's mainstream enough where people are going to bring their families to it.
Yes.
I guess, my concern might be some sensitivities around the fact that it's like you're asking people to pay into this fee, and then the fee that they're paying into is presenting a movie, But I understand why we're doing it. There's a lot of other promotional materials that we weren't able to do because of COVID. But I think it's a really good idea. I think it's cool. I think the Earth Day thing is a slam dunk. Obviously, if we can do it sooner and kind of, capitalize on the fact that we have a captive audience relative to COVID and all the other movie theaters are closed, I think that's advantageous too. So yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And remember, we had this, Jareen came up with this idea years ago. I think when you first came on board, Jareen, we talked about, in fact, I still have on my computer or on my cell phone now, Plastic Ocean.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree that it needs to be a movie with broad enough appeal to
Yes.
get families, and so a long kind of documentary might not be ideal. I think there's plenty of Disney movies that I think have really positive environmental messages, but also tell a good story and have good characters and all kinds of things that I think might be good.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that along with adding in some materials in the beginning, and then maybe even having a clean ocean table or something at the event so people, well, I guess you couldn't during COVID times, but maybe once those things are lifted,
It could be handed out, to cars when they drive in.
I don't think so.
No touching? No?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Well,
Susan, what do you think? Susan, what do you think of showing the Lorax?
well, that's exactly what Cynthia mentioned. I agreed that was a good idea.
And the other movie could be the Bee movie. About
Oh, the bee movie, yeah.
Yeah, so those are two pretty good ones that I think would attract
And
families.
they'd be good and seasonal.
And Cynthia, I do have one question. Where does the sound come from if everyone's staying in their car?
FM radio.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if there's speakers outside, people wouldn't be staying in their car.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. Maybe it is like Gary is saying.
Yeah.
Radio.
That's usually how you do it. There's a Wi-Fi FM, and they tell you like to dial 98.1 or something, and it comes in on your radio.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, that being said, are there any comments about the language that we've used to describe this project name or the purpose? I think, again, I think that these are very clear. Let me just read them aloud if you don't have it in front of you. The purpose is to engage and encourage families to learn about local environmental issues, including recycling, clean oceans, and beaches. Well, we might want to add something to that. If maybe through media or something. Goal, promote the importance of environment by showing a family-friendly environmental movie and short documentary on real-life environmental projects. Yes. And deliverables, number of vehicles and people reached, or number of vehicles and people attending would probably be better said.
And And people attending?
Yes.
Change that, okay?
So do you want to include, for the purpose, do we want to add anything else to that? Engage and encourage families to learn about local environmental issues, including, it's not just local environmental issues, it's environmental issues.
Okay. Do you want me to remove the word local?
I think so. What about my committee members? After all, we're dealing with, many of our local issues are national and international issues. Any comments, Doreen? No? Gary?
I don't think it really matters, but
Okay.
whatever.
Joe?
Yeah, I don't have a preference.
Okay, Chris?
I also don't have a preference.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to recommend that we take out the word local and make it more general for its environmental. So, about environmental issues. Unless you want to say national as well as local environmental issues. I'll leave that up to you, Cynthia. Which word do you like?
I think what you said, Susan, that it could even be international, right? So
Yeah.
maybe we just keep it generic about environmental issues and
Okay.
remove that locality for reference.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to go around the group again to be sure that this one is making everybody happy, that we're all on board on this one. Just going to ask you for an aye if you are in agreement of all of the language with the one amendment that we just added. Doreen, I'm starting with you. Just an aye if you are in agreement. Thumbs up. Okay, yes. Gary?
I
Chris?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And myself is an aye, so that is 5-0. Yes, we all approve. Good job, Cynthia. Let's move on to the next one.
Can I ask,
I'm sorry.
can I clarify something if we
Sure.
wanted to do one movie showing or two? Should we just go with the one movie showing? Because I just don't know that we'll be able to get anything done within the next couple of months anyway. So,
Well, it's already mid-September. So if you're asking, I don't know, but Thanksgiving might be a nice month to have a family outing to a movie, especially in these COVID times.
yeah. Well, let's leave two in it.
Let's leave them in and see what the city council decides.
Okay, I like it. Sounds good.
If anybody objects, now's the time to turn your light on. Okay. So we will go on with that. Let's move on then to the last one on page 4, environmental sustainability grants. The purpose to stimulate nonprofit organizations in San Clemente schools to develop and implement environmentally related projects that benefit schools, San Clemente communities, and the city of San Clemente. I think that's just clear as a bell. Goal, promote the grant program to encourage submittal of grant applications that preserve and protect San Clemente's ocean, beaches, and environment. I'd like to add through various media. Promote the grant program through various media. Almost as well as, well, various media takes in pretty much almost everything. Does anybody have any other ideas on language for that? I just want to it's not just looking on a website or promoting just by sending a letter out or one ad in the SE Times. It's an active, we talked about this before, how could we improve the number of grants? And we all came up with ideas of increasing the media coverage about them. Does anybody recollect that, or is it just me? Doreen? Did we talk about this before? Remember, we all voted to increase the media coverage? Expand is a better word.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with multimedia and
fine.
Okay. Thank you. Gary, do you have a comment?
No, I was just going to say you could say through media, the grant program.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You can say promote through media, the grant program to encourage submittal.
Yeah, and I think I would add multimedia in there,
Well,
Okay.
as Jareen suggested.
I've got.
Thank
Here's a suggestion: promote the grant program through various media outlets to encourage submittal.
Or you
No, I
could start off saying, use a multimedia approach to promote the grant program.
Yeah, either one of those, either Cynthia's various multimedia outlets or what Doreen just advised.
I'm for either.
So am I. Why don't we go with Cynthia's various outlets?
I mean,
Various media.
does that change the calculation as it relates to the cost, right? Because do you pay for those ads, Cynthia, when you do SC time stuff?
Yeah, I pay for the ads, and no, it's not gonna. I usually have that cost already covered, and just the month before the grants are due, I'll have those ads in the paper, so it doesn't cost us any more money. And to post on social media and on the website doesn't cost any money, just staff time, but it's nothing that I haven't already done before, so it's within budget.
All right, sounds good.
Chris, I saw your light on, Chris?
No, I don't have a question. I was curious about the budget myself.
Okay. Did Cynthia answer your question?
She did.
Okay, thank you. And on that note too, Cynthia, remember that part of what you did too, even though this was an unusual year, you put in more announcements about the Clean Ocean, about the availability of environmental sustainability grants. You put that in the paper more frequently. I think it was a month or two earlier than you usually did in the past.
Yeah, I tried to. I think this last one in June, I was a little late on it and only had one ad. But I think COVID, we didn't, as you guys recall, we didn't get any submittals.
Right.
So I think it'll be an opportunity to start sooner in the fall, maybe like October and November.
And again, we may not get anything simply because of there's a limited interaction in schools and in nonprofits right now. We might not get anything for December, but we might get a bigger load in June. But at least starting earlier gets people moving earlier, because you have to get a lot of signatures when you go through the bureaucracy of schools, especially, and in nonprofits.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking of starting at least one ad in October, maybe one in October, one in November, and then one at the beginning of December.
And then ongoing on the city website, right?
Yeah, and then I have it on the city website.
And maybe even an insert in the water bill.
Yeah, we could look at that. That would cost more money now. That would be some thing. So I don't know how much that would be, but I could try and find out.
Okay. And maybe we could put posters up in some of the businesses in town about environmental grants, similar to the announcement that you put in the papers. An idea.
That would cost more money. I got to print the posters and stuff. So
But they would be up there for some time,
yeah. So
doing their own promotion.
So for the estimated project cost, I was going to insert there $12,000 for grant awards, because that's what we have available. Because I had under their estimated project cost, I had none. But actually there's $12,000 for the grant awards, and that's within budget.
Yes.
That's budgeted for, of course.
Okay.
And then I think I'm going to take out none, but because there is staff time to review and present to the CAC, to present to CAC.
Yeah, but you're getting already paid for being at CAC, so there's not extra money for you to be here to talk about.
Right. Yeah, but it's all accounted for in the budget. I think that they still want to know that there's some staff time involved, because there is, but it's covered in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of, because it's just part of what your job is. It's not extra staff time.
Do we want to make reference to the fact that this is an ongoing program, right? Because if it could be city council and they're not familiar with it, I could see them saying, oh, 12K, is this a new program you're starting? I mean, they may be familiar enough with it, but maybe we should include some reference to the fact of continuation of, grant program or something. I don't know.
Down at the very bottom, is this a new project or unfinished project? I have ongoing biannually.
Perfect.
Is that okay?
Yes.
That's perfect, yes.
Okay.
And also, when this is being presented to the city council, I can give them more details should they have questions about that. And Cynthia will be on call as well. All right, so let's go through then environmental sustainability. We have promote the grant program to encourage the submittal of grant applications that preserve and protect San Clemente's ocean, beaches, and environment. The deliverable is the funding recommendation to the city council and their approval, right? Or just, is a deliverable only our recommendation?
Actually, that's a mistake on my part. It's a funding recommendation to the city manager.
Okay,
City manager approves the funding.
okay. Good catch.
Mhm.
All right, then, if no one has any other questions for the other four little items that Cynthia's filled in regarding the project costs, the timeline, the resources needed, I'm going to go around our group again and ask for an aye if you are in agreement to the slight changes we just made. One was made by Cynthia. Doreen, I'm going to start with you again, please. A thumbs up. Gary?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And myself is an aye. That's a 5-0. Moving ahead of approval. Thank you very much, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on to a new, oh, wait a minute.
Pochi.
Yes.
Pochi.
Oh, but we missed one then. I missed a page. Let's do Pochi right now, but I did miss a page. So, Pochi is the one that came up last month when Doreen questioned, and some of us also concurred with her. I think we all concurred with her that Pochi is still a beach that is continually experiencing a lot of bacteria, and we were concerned that why are the measures being taken down at Pochi being effective to reduce the bacterial count? And hence, we had asked Cynthia about it, and Dave Riebenster was kind enough to pipe up and to share some ongoing things that are just being started. And hence, we talked about, let's make this an objective for coastal advisory, since we made the Pure Bowl study a major issue for coastal advisory, and even sending a representative to serve on the stakeholders advisory committee. So that being said, Cynthia said that she would sit down with Dave and come up with some language, and she did. I've asked her to try to hone it down, and you guys have had it in your possession for a few days now. Does anybody want to offer some comments on the purpose of, and even the project name of the Pochi Beach Bacteria TMDL? Anybody want to give some input on this?
Fine with me, that name.
Okay.
I would just say that the TMDL seems to me just a little bit, I think people in the business know what that means, but I feel like maybe for a project title, we should just make it a little bit more generic, like Pochi Beach Bacterial Source Identification Study, or source identification.
I think that's very specific, and that's really what we're trying to find out, right? Where's the bacteria coming from?
Right.
And then you had a concern about the TMDL anachronism yourself, didn't you, Cynthia?
Yeah.
It's a little too sciencey for.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Pochi Beach Bacteria Source Identification Project?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we already call it a project name, so it's being seen as a project.
So keep project or no, or not have it at the end of the title?
I wouldn't have it. I think I would end it with source identification,
Okay.
bacterial source identification, as Doreen mentioned.
Okay.
And then what about, Doreen, did you have some comments on the purpose? Is there a way that we can shorten that a little bit and make it more user-friendly?
Yeah, I think we could shorten, hold on, this is hard because I have for whatever reason, these things were not forwarding to my other email account, so I can only access this on my phone. So, let's see. Where is it again? Okay, so where it says, review and assess the development and implementation of special studies, I was thinking we could just kind of cut that short or cut that part out and just start off by saying develop and assess studies to identify and abate bacterial sources. And then right before the word exceedances, say that are causing water quality standard exceedances, just so we know that we further define what that is at the Pochi Beach monitoring station. And I had a question, I guess, about that. Is that the official name of it, the Pochi Beach Shoreline Monitoring Station?
Yes.
Okay.
Shoreline is the official name? Yes, I haven't seen that before.
It's actually Pochi Beach .0. There's like 3 monitoring stations there, but I think I put shoreline in there just to make it clear that it was the shoreline water, that was being tested. But we can get rid of shoreline.
Yeah, let's reduce the words as long as the concept is there. It's specific enough. So, Doreen, do you want to repeat that whole thing for Cynthia? I had jotted down, develop and assess.
Develop and assess studies to identify and abate bacteria sources that are causing water quality standard exceedances at the Pochi Beach River Shoreline or Monitoring Station, whatever we want to call it.
Well, that's pretty direct. Cynthia, are you happy with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Develop and assess studies to identify and abate bacteria sources that are causing water quality exceedances at the Pochi Beach Monitoring Station.
Yes.
Did we put that are causing bacteria water quality exceedances? Because it is bacteria.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think that makes it more specific and doesn't open it up to other things because it's just the bacteria TMDL that we're addressing.
Yeah. I agree. And then what about, let's go to the goals. Doreen, you want to carry on since you're on a roll there? Provide feedback on special studies to identify bacteria sources.
Yeah, I think I just had shortened it or just said provide input on source identification studies.
No,
I didn't really know what special studies meant. So,
well, I think that's very to the point. Would you repeat that for Cynthia? And all of us?
provide input on source identification studies to identify bacteria sources.
Okay. Would we be giving input and recommendations? Oh, that next sentence.
That's the deliverable.
Yeah, that's right. Are we comfortable with that?
How about just not provide recommended studies to identify bacteria sources? Because that is the goal, provide that info to the council.
Well, we have that on deliverables, Gary.
Well, that's also the goal.
Well, the deliverable is the recommendations.
Provide necessary studies to identify bacteria sources.
Well, Cynthia, are we providing the studies?
Well, we're directing somebody, right?
Yeah, we're commissioning a consultant and working with the county. There's one already going on right now anyway. So
Where could you recommend? Recommend appropriate studies to identify bacteria sources.
yeah, the consultants really designed the studies. So we would be presenting to the CAC results of the studies and almost kind of like the pure bacteria source characterization study. Hey, we've identified these locations where they could be potential sources, and now what are the management measures that we need to do to abate those sources. So provide input.
Recommend studies. Recommend program to identify. Anything like that.
Well, what Cynthia is saying is the consultants usually design those studies or create those studies, And usually, Cynthia, isn't that done by you and Dave and other people in the department, giving them information about what's happening at that particular site?
Yeah, and then as scientists, as the monitoring staff, with the consulting firms, they then design the work plan on how to implement the sampling and analysis and that type of thing. So
we wouldn't be recommending the studies per se, Gary. We'd be providing them with information to design the proper studies to do the rest. That's literally what happens.
it could be provide input on source identification study work plans to identify bacteria sources. I mean, that's similar to what Doreen is serving on the peer study, is when the work plan was presented to them, there was discussion around that as well. But what is it that you're suggesting, Gary?
Well, eventually we're going to look at some kind of plan that's put together by some contractor to send forward to the council.
Yes.
Yes.
So the goal is to recommend an appropriate, contracted work plan because we'll approve it before we move it for council approval, right?
Yeah, you would make a recommendation, yeah.
Based on the data, the information that was in the work plan.
Provide recommendation of, work plan studies or appropriate studies to identify bacteria sources. Because some consultant's going to recommend what we should study, what tests.
I think we're complicating that. Cynthia, what was your take on what Jareen said that will also address what Gary's needs are?
Let's see. Well, right now I kind of changed it to add in some of what Gary's saying. Recommend an appropriate work plan and provide input on source identification studies.
Or it could be, since the deliverable is providing the recommendation, the goal would be to develop a work plan of special studies to identify bacterial sources.
Well, the CAC isn't going to develop the work plan.
No, we're not.
Develop it, but we're going to give input to some contractor, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's staff that's doing that.
It'll come before the CAC, though, first, I would think.
Well, it'll come before the CAC after you've provided the information to the consultants on what needs to be studied and looked at.
But when we're looking at it, it's being developed. So we could shepherd the development of a work plan. We're looking over some contractor's back, right?
Yes.
Before it goes to council.
Well, I mean, council would approve they wouldn't necessarily approve the work plan. They would just approve the funding, hopefully, to a consultant. And then from there.
For the purpose. What council would approve the money for the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
What about, could we just use the word oversee the development of a work plan?
Oh, that's simple and easy.
Actually, we're going to oversee the plan of some consultant to identify bacterial.
We're going to not only oversee, we're going to provide input about it.
Well, then both.
Yes. Okay, Jareen, you want to repeat that?
I just added the word oversee, and then we said provide recommendations. Is that what we said?
Yeah, I don't see that provide recommendations are fit in there right there. I think that we're going to oversee and provide input about the work plan.
Consultant's work plan, right?
If that's the language Cynthia wants to use for that party.
Can I jump in real quick? It's Dave Riebenster. So you'll have kind of two phases. You'll have a request for proposal that will be developed, and in that it will have some varying guidelines. That will then go out to the consultants, and then the consultants will probably come back with some other recommendations. And then so you might have two processes where the CAC provides input on the RFP and that process, and for the initial plan, and then for the final plan that would be developed, with staff's input in the RFP and through the consultant's recommendations in their proposal.
So we could provide input on initial RFP and final work plan to identify bacteria sources.
Does that meet the things that you're talking about, Mr. Riebenster?
I think that's perfect.
Okay, Gary, can you repeat that?
Oh.
Cynthia, were you writing anything down?
Provide input on initial RFP and final, it could just be work plan or consultant work plan.
And don't add more words. You had it just.
Then forget consultant, just final work plan to identify bacterial sources.
Okay. Let's have Cynthia read it back to us when she's done.
Provide input on initial RFP and final study work plan to identify bacterial sources.
Or just final work plan.
Okay, final work plan to identify bacterial sources.
Would you read that again?
Provide input on initial RFP and final work plan to identify bacterial sources.
Well, where does it say that there's an RFP period?
Well, there's going to have to be.
Yeah, and usually with the RFP, we I don't know that we typically come before the CAC with the actual RFP.
No. We don't.
But what we would do is once the RFP is out and staff has reviewed the proposals and we've selected a consultant and then they make the work plan, that's typically when we would come before the CAC.
That's right. So we're not right now involved in that initial part.
Right.
You put the RFP yourself.
I think it's still appropriate because if the council approves this project name, there will be an RFP.
Yes.
I mean, the council could just cut this out and say we don't want to do it. But
that's correct.
If they do want the project, there'll have to be RFP because it's not going to be done in-house.
No, the RFP is done in-house.
Right. Right. That's because it's not done in-house. You're doing an RFP.
Right.
Putting it up bid.
Right.
Yeah. But typically we don't come before the Coastal Advisory Committee with the RFPs.
Right.
So.
Although we might want the CAC to provide assistance in developing that RFP and what the program would look like potentially.
Didn't we look at the RFP for the pier and all that kind of bacterial stuff? Because the contractor, they came to us after the council kind of,
Oh, we looked at their action plan, their work plan.
Okay.
Yeah, we did the RFP all in-house and hired the consultant, and then once they drafted the work plan, the draft work plan came before the before the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and the Coastal Advisory Committee.
Because Dave, isn't it your people, your department people are studying and analyzing and trying to determine those sources right now. So those are the best people to give the information and input in terms of the initial RFP, the first process. Isn't that correct?
Not necessarily city staff, but there is a study that's being looked at in the Pochi Basin or watershed. We could utilize a consultant to help provide us the guidelines. Other than that, it's just Cynthia and I.
Okay, but I do recall at our last meeting you mentioned this consultant was starting to do some work or was doing some work on the Pochi issue right now.
Yeah, and I can add on to it. It's the county of Orange and
Okay.
our water quality improvement plan. We have an area of investigation.
Okay.
and a part of the Pochi watershed, the lower part, was identified as potentially having contributing bacteria sources. So they've actually already started.
Yes,
So,
that's what I heard Dave say at the last meeting.
and so we would definitely bring back information to the CAC for that study, no matter what. So,
Right.
and then we did have Wood, who's working on the peer study, do some non-stormwater runoff reduction program in Pochi, and we identified a few locations that had irrigation runoff from HOA areas, common areas, and a local school. And so we got that abated. So that would be what would be going on again. I mean, that's going to have to probably keep going on, is trying to identify all this irrigation runoff. And so we have to send out another RFP to get that study going again. So I don't know how much of an RFP will be out there that you would provide input on that. I think it's more of when it comes to hiring the consultant and getting their work plan that you guys would review that. So
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think we're getting a little hung up on this for the purpose of the
I don't really think it matters. The idea is eventually we're going to put out a work plan.
yeah.
Right.
I don't think it really matters. It's
The
semantic.
consultant's going to put out the work plan, and we're going to evaluate and offer input and
We
recommendations.
may or may not look at the RFP
Pardon me?
along the way.
I didn't hear that, Gary.
I said we may or may not look at an RFP along the way. But it really, I don't think it matters.
Well, yeah, it matters because we shouldn't include that in the language if we're not going to be looking at the RFP.
Cut it out and just leave the work plan part.
Yes, and that's what initially Joreen and Cynthia were doing. But I see where you were going with that. But I think we're back to that other part. So it's really identifying, oops, I hit the wrong key there. Identifying the sources, but getting to the work plan.
It's assessing a work plan, right? The final work plan.
Did you want to read us what you have?
If we cut out RFP, what was it?
I have provide input on work plan to identify bacterial sources. And then I think there should be something subsequent to that, like receive updates on the study.
Well,
I don't know
yeah,
if you want that in there, but we would be coming back to you with,
but we're not calling it an RFP. We should be calling it the work plan, right? Because you just said
no.
we're not giving input on the RFP. We're giving input on the work plan product.
right.
Yeah, I think you got it, Cynthia. I think maybe you could add as a second part, monitor progress and results of study.
Nice.
Or a work plan?
Okay, so what do you guys think of this? Hold on. Is provide input on work plan to identify bacterial sources, monitor progress and results of the study.
That's
Okay.
good. Council approved study or whatever, that's fine.
Well, and then we have the other goal is review appropriate and effective strategies and BMPs to eliminate the source.
I think that's kind of redundant.
Yeah, I already believe that. I think that the monitor progress would cover that.
Right, and we know we're gonna use that.
I don't know. I don't like that one. That language sounds a little clunky. I think that review appropriate and effective strategies. Hold on a minute, Gary. Hold on a minute, Gary. I think that review appropriate and effective strategies and BMPs to eliminate the source is a very professional statement because that's what we're going to be doing. That's what we've done with the Peer Bowl study. We've looked at them, we've given comments, etc.
That's what the RFP is gonna ensure. That's what the subcontractor is gonna ensure.
No, they're gonna do what they're doing, and then our role as the CAC, when we go to SAC meetings and Jareen's our representative, and I go to those meetings as well and sit in the audience. But the stuff that's discussed is all feedback and input from members of that committee. In addition, they'll take comments from people in the audience. Jareen, do you want to weigh in on this?
But you know, we are not the professionals for BMPs to eliminate, and the effective strategies and the appropriate ones to eliminate the sources. We're not microbiologists. We're not bacteriologists. So
We had this discussion last month when I said the same thing, Gary, and I was outvoted. Everybody wanted to use BMPs.
well, that's why you hire a contractor.
Well, okay, can we just listen to what Cynthia, what do we have right now?
Right now I have provide input on work plan to identify bacterial sources, monitor progress and results of the study, period. And you could just say, and make recommendations. Well,
monitoring does not say,
And review recommended best management practices.
not review. I mean,
Are you specifically selecting the BMPs that are going to be applied to solve the bacterial problem at Pochi?
well, that's a question to everybody.
I think the answer is no.
And Dave. Well, Dave had mentioned some work. Dave, are you still on board with us here?
I am. Am I on mute? Hold on.
no, you're there. We can
No,
hear you.
you're here.
Great. Yeah, well, depending upon what comes out of the study that's being discussed here this evening, and if the sources can't be identified, then another option may be looking at a capital project where water is captured and maybe repurposed if possible. It may be difficult because of high TDS, and then placed into the ocean outfall and sent 2 miles out to sea.
Mm-hmm.
But then there would still have to be, potential modifications done to the pond, because you'll have seawater that will fill back into the pond, and if that discharges out to the ocean, you might have high bacteria. So it's a pretty big project and a challenge.
But Dave, I'm asking you specifically to address Joe's question and Gary's as well. And it's something that we discussed before, is do we as a CAC make recommendations for BMPs? And do we assess the feasibility of them of a consultant?
I would think you would want to make a recommendation to council on a project that would potentially come out of this study.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yes.
So are you calling those then incorporating BMPs?
Well, I think it just depends. The BMP I'm talking about is a big BMP, but there may be other BMPs that the consultant may come up with.
Yes.
So, yeah, potentially.
Okay, so we've got that last line in there that Joe added, and review best management practices to eliminate the source. Joe, is that correct? You added that at the end?
That's correct. The language I'm trying to strike is the consultant's report. If they determine in their professional opinion that certain BMPs are recommended, then they'll include that in a draft of the report. I think our role would be to look at that and validate, yeah, that seems like a reasonable BMP. That seems reasonable to recommend to the city council based on the cost versus the effectiveness of it. Yeah, but I don't see us as the Coastal Advisory Committee coming up with. Yeah, right. But I think it's fair game to say we're going to recommend the best management practices or again, recommendations for a capital improvement project, whatever the case may be, and, determine whether we believe we should recommend to city council that what the consultant concludes and recommends in the report is should go forward and should get funded.
Okay, I see that, but I also see what Dave's saying. So in the end, though, we may be actually recommending a major BMP, which would be the project, whether it be a capital project. Is that right,
I think we're getting kind of hung up because BMPs generally are effective and appropriate. So.
Oh, that's subjective.
Okay.
To some party it may be, and to another party it may not be. Hence, that's why they have committees and
well, I think the best thing
stakeholder advisory committees, etc.
Well, I think the best thing is what we're really trying to do is we're going to review appropriate and effective strategies to eliminate the sources.
Yeah.
One goal is to try to have a work plan that recommend a work plan that eliminates the sources.
Yes.
I don't care what you do. anything gets it through. We just need to leave the sentence in. I don't care, but we really aren't. I am really not the best person to evaluate microbiological or structural BMPs, because then I don't know what kind of concrete delay, what the best practice is in the industry. So to me, but I don't care. I'll vote for it if you want it.
Well, isn't there a difference between, I mean, the capital improvement project is not necessarily a BMP, right?
Yeah, it would be a
It
better.
can be if it's the best way to manage the infection or the whatever it is.
Because I feel like, I mean, they could recommend a suite of options, right? So they could say you could try, minimizing sources upstream, you could try this, or you could do a giant capital improvement project that's a guarantee, but it's going to cost a boatload of money.
You got to remember, you may not use the best BMP because it's too costly.
Right.
That's why I'm saying it's relative.
Well, that's why this gets to whatever. We're just going to review, or I'll do whatever, because it doesn't really matter in the end. The consultant's going to make recommendations. We're going to look at it, and we're going to make our comments.
Cynthia, would you read what you have right now, including everybody's last comments?
Yeah, this could be simplified.
Yes, please.
So, review appropriate and effective strategies to eliminate sources.
Bacterial sources.
We know it's bacterial because that's up above. So the whole goals would provide input on work plan to identify bacterial sources, monitor progress and results of the study, review appropriate and effective strategies to eliminate sources.
Well, what should come after monitor? Read that sentence again, please. Monitor.
Monitor progress and results of the study.
Well, what in addition to monitor? And so we're looking at the progress and the results of the study. If we're monitoring, there should be an opportunity to take action. Monitor and what?
We're monitoring the progress of the study.
Yes, and if we have a suggestion about that progress or lack thereof, we should be able to address that.
Yeah.
What's an action phrase that would fit in there properly in your language?
Well,
Dave or Cynthia?
It's only going to be a monitoring a study at this point. This is just going to get to the point where there's going to be a contractor who is going to recommend a study, right? Because it's going to go out for RFP.
Well, we're monitoring the study. Cynthia, would you read that again, please?
Once it's approved.
Yeah, so, step one is provide input on work plan to identify bacterial sources. Mm-hmm. So we would bring that before you. Then they get their final work plan. And then at certain times during the study, the CAC is going to monitor progress and results of the study.
Okay, yes, implement, right.
I think that's fine.
That's good.
And then review appropriate and effective strategies to eliminate sources. And then your deliverables down there is where you're providing recommendations to city staff and city council. So I think that deliverable about providing recommendations covers all three of these sentences. Provide input, monitor progress and results, which maybe you have recommendations on how to move forward or doing something different, and then review appropriate and effective strategies to eliminate sources. And then you'd provide a recommendation on that.
Anybody have a comment on what was just read? Does anybody object to anything that was just read?
Read the final, Cynthia, please.
The whole thing, purpose?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
okay, well, all right.
Yeah, let's hear it all together.
okay, Pochi Beach bacteria source identification. Purpose: develop and assess studies to identify and abate bacteria sources that are causing bacteria water quality exceedances at the Pochi Beach monitoring station. Goal: provide input on work plan to identify bacterial sources, monitor progress and results of the study, review appropriate and effective strategies to eliminate sources. Deliverables: provide recommendations to city staff and city council.
I
I haven't asked for a vote yet. What about there was a comment there. I haven't seen before that we report to city staff. We just usually report to the city council. This is new language.
Well,
I think that's redundant because we're working with you directly.
well, if there's a recommendation during the study, as the study's moving on, and you recommend to city staff to have the consultant do something different, that's not going to go to city council.
Well, you would be part of our discussion. We would be recommending, we would, in that, that's why I was hung up on monitoring. Monitoring is just, monitoring is reading, looking at, etc. There's usually, when you monitor something, there's some action involved other than reading and reviewing.
Right, and that's why you provide recommendations to city staff. I could put city consultant in there too, because not all of your recommendations during the middle of the study are going to go to the city council.
Yeah.
That's more, between the CAC, the city staff, and the consultant.
Yes, why don't you do that? That then includes more interaction that's more active other than just monitoring.
So provide recommendations to city staff, consultant, and city council?
That's fine.
I would agree with that.
I think that's good.
Okay, let's just go around the table right now and give me an I if you're satisfied with that language. Otherwise, I think we're beating this to death. And it's still going to go to the city council for determination anyway. So, Jareen, I'm going to start with you again, please.
Aye.
Thumbs up. Gary?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. That's 5-0. Thank you very much for all your input and discussion. And Cynthia, thank you. And Dave, Mr. Riebenstorf, thank you very much.
Can
All
I
right.
throw in a curveball? I'm a little worried about the funding amount of $50,000. The pier is well in excess of $100,000. Should we be considering $100,000 instead of $50,000 this report?
No, I think that's a good catch because there's nothing more annoying. In fact, the city council complained every time you guys went back for more money. They accepted it, but they still complained. Cynthia, so should we take Dave's recommendation and put in the 100,000 rather than the 50?
We can put in that higher amount, and Dave, we already have 50,000 budgeted for the non-stormwater runoff component, so that's where I got the 50K from. But we do have money in the encumbered for that watershed to do more. So
the only challenge is I told Jake to only carry over 100,000, so I just sent him an email asking if we could increase it, so up to 200,000 for the carryover. So there's definitely 50,000, but I'm trying to see if we can carry over a higher amount to cover that 100,000 and more if needed.
yeah, and I'm trying to think if we could. Yeah, I think we should carry over as much as we can, Dave. But I don't know that we'd be able to spend all that 100,000 in this fiscal year. I know we can definitely get the non-stormwater irrigation study going, and that's 50,000 in this fiscal year. And then the county is already doing their study, and we're paying for that partially through the cost share for the regional cost share. But I do have the timeline on there going through December of 2021. So, yeah.
About 50 to 100,000. Put a range in there.
No, I think we should follow Mr. Riebenstorf's recommendation because he knows best in this group.
I moved to put 100,000 in there.
There you go,
These
Gary.
studies they're expensive.
So, Dave, did you want to put 100,000 or did you want to put 100 to 200?
I think 100 is appropriate.
Okay.
I so moved.
We're not doing that, but I'm going to go around the cycle here. Jareen, are you comfortable with 100?
Yep.
Gary? Gary, yes?
Yes.
Chris?
I am if you guys are.
Yes. Joe?
Yes.
I'm a yes. That's 5-0. Thank you very much, Dave.
Okay.
I appreciate you catching that.
Okay.
Okay. So that was the end of the 5th. You know, I wanted to go back to the very beginning because I had an item on page 2 that we already did, but we didn't come up with a title, and I don't know that we need to now, but I have a recommendation I want to share with you. And this is regarding the cleanup events. And the project name is on page 2. It says, "We love San Clemente." San Clemente, where the choices are San Clemente Beautiful, Zero Trash SC, or SC0. Use the universal no symbol, greater than trash. And then I love clean San Clemente. Those are a lot of choices. I was talking with Cynthia today about keeping this title of this project very simple so that it could be multi-purpose used, not just to pick up trash, but to do other beautification programs in San Clemente, whether it be planting native plants, which would be environmental, whether it would be getting businesses and schools and nonprofits involved as sponsors for some of these kinds of projects that hit on the environmental vein. And all of these related to the message of I love San Clemente or San Clemente Beautiful. Personally, I like San Clemente Beautiful as the choice because it's very simple. It's something that could be made as a sticker or put on a t-shirt or put on stationery. It's something that people would relate to when they're trying to sponsor something. What are you doing? And what is your store doing? We're part of San Clemente Beautiful. So that is my recommendation. Rather than take to the city council 5 different titles, I think that we should just call it San Clemente Beautiful. That's the project name.
My 5 cents would be add the word keep San Clemente Beautiful, because that's action. San Clemente Beautiful doesn't have any action in it, and keep San Clemente Beautiful means keep San Clemente Beautiful.
No, because that my contention with that, I understand, I appreciate your adding keep in there, but that means that it's maintenance only. We already are a beautiful city. We are San Clemente Beautiful. So whatever we do to add to that is part of San Clemente Beautiful. It's not a chore to keep San Clemente Beautiful. It's a volunteer effort. It's a responsibility not only for our community, but for our city. You'll get a lot more volunteers and a lot of more participants, in my experience with programs like this, to have a general positive statement. San Clemente Beautiful.
Well, I disagree, but because when we ran Keep Downey Beautiful, we got plenty of people out under the name Keep. That's what you're trying to do. You can't keep it beautiful without action.
Well, you get the action with just the 2 words as well in more ways than just trash and pick up like that.
Well, then you can also be a part of Keep America Beautiful, which has a lot of resources.
Yeah, but we're doing this locally right now. We're just taking something to the city council. That's my proposal for this. I'm gonna go around the circle. I appreciate your input there, Gary, but I disagree. I think it should be a flat statement that can embrace all kinds of ways to have San Clemente Beautiful. Whether it's through art, whether it's through schools, whether it's through any kind of nonprofit, whether it's through business interests and business sponsorships. There's so many things, and there's so many reasons why businesses would rather contribute to that other than a maintenance program, which keep Downey or keep San Clemente is connotating. That's the connotation. We're keeping it beautiful or maintaining it. But let me go around the circle here. Jermaine, do you have a comment on this?
I mean, I think both names are great. I mean, my preference is actually just to keep it simple. So I do like San Clemente Beautiful just because I think it's simple. I think it provides, everything that Susan talked about. And I can see even on a t-shirt, it's a few less words, but
yes.
I mean, I don't have a strong opinion, but.
And even if it was on a t-shirt, it's a t-shirt you could wear anywhere and somebody would ask you about it. And by the way, on a t-shirt too, anybody who was a sponsor or supporter for example, with Zero Trash, they put that business logo on the back of that t-shirt where they have Zero Trash on the front. On the back is a business logo for whoever paid for those t-shirts or whoever donated whatever. So it's free advertising, but it's acknowledging those sponsors as well. That's one way to use it. But those kinds of things just bring in a whole new revenue source from businesses. But let's go through. Joreen said, San Clemente Beautiful. Gary, you're sticking to keep? Okay. Chris?
Susan, I like your idea of San Clemente Beautiful only because it's, well, for many reasons, but it is simple, and I like that.
Thank you. Joe?
I don't have a strong preference on it. Either way is fine.
Okay. Well, I'm going to vote for that. So we are in a 4-1 vote, and in this case, the majority will win on this one. Gary, I appreciate your input always. So we're going to delete all of those other names, and we're going to call this San Clemente Beautiful.
Okay. And if it's
Better than taking all of these to the city council and we acting like, and in essence saying we don't know what we want to do, but we do know what we want to do. So that I think the language on the rest of this stuff for right now is the proper language, because that's our first outing, so to speak, is to do some cleanup events. And we were doing that in lieu of the fact that we didn't get involved with a lot of events that we would have done with Earth Day and some other cleanups that normally we would have done that weren't done because of the COVID. So unless anybody else has some language changes for the purpose of the goals or the deliverables, all of those language statements were okayed by us at our August meeting. So if anybody has any other comments, I'll go through real quick. Joreen, do you have any extra comments you want to make on that? Gary? No? Chris?
I do not.
Okay. Joe?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Then that was the only other thing that I had on the work plan. So we signed off on all of these. Does anybody have a reason or another one that we previously agreed on in August that you need to bring up right now? Cynthia, yes?
on this one, the San Clemente Beautiful, I have still frequency question mark. So I'm not sure if you folks want to discuss a frequency on that.
Just put ongoing.
Not monthly or
Not monthly.
Or twice. Yeah, I'm not sure.
As planned.
Yes, right.
So what do you want me to put in there? As planned?
Yes.
Okay.
When is planned?
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Alrighty. To get back to my agenda here. So, Cynthia, you might want to enlighten all of us now that we've approved this work plan to take to the city council. Can you, and I know that you sent us a memo about that, or at least I got one, in reference to the process of how this will go from this day forward.
My understanding is that the work plan would be given to the city council, and then they will agendize the review of those work plans, but they may not all be reviewed at the same city council meeting. So I don't know the schedule of when the Coastal Advisory Committee work plan would be presented to the city council. October.
But you do know the deadline is October 1st for these to be submitted.
Yes.
To the city council. So hold on a minute, Gary. So I would recommend that if as soon as possible that you can get this done, you know, the corrections made, etc., that we submit it as soon as possible, not wait till September 30th. Then I know you have a busy schedule, but you've got some weeks to get this in. Hopefully you'll get it in sooner than later. Dave, is that okay with you? Mr. Riebenster?
All right, come off mute there. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think if the CAC approves it, and then as soon as Cynthia can put it together, then get it submitted up to the city council.
Yes, okay. And my understanding also from a letter from, I think, I'm not sure who I got this from. I thought it was from you, Cynthia, that the process would be that I would be present to present this should the city council have any questions.
Well,
That chairpersons of the committees are being asked to be there when the work plans are being presented and reviewed.
And that's in the recommendation.
Yes.
All right, I was gonna say we need a motion, don't we? To
Yes.
approve the goal?
Yeah, and can
Yes.
I add something in there? I've been doing some homework on the cost of those bottle refill stations, but I haven't gotten the feedback, like on maintenance, and I'm checking in with Orange County Public Works. I've emailed them to try and get how much it costs for them to maintain those bottle refill stations up there. So that is one of the work plan items that I'll probably just change that dollar amount once I get a better figure for that cost. So I just wanted to make you aware on that.
No, and thank you for bringing that up. Hold on a minute, though. I want to be sure that, Gary, what question did you have? Was it relevant to
I was gonna make a motion,
what, to accept the work plan?
right, and as like what the staff is recommending, a motion to,
Okay, but wait, hold on. I'm not going to let you make that motion yet because Cynthia had a question about one of the other items here. On the deliverable, on the installation of bottle refill stations, which is on page 3. So it's the top one on page 3. She is saying to us she's not exactly sure of the accuracy of these estimated project costs and wants to do further research on that, and I think that's a good idea. I also was looking for the Pure Pride report that was presented to the city council, and I kept getting passed on to another file, and I know that information is available in their budget, but I do know that to finance that station at the pier, that was a private donation of $10,000.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm just letting you know that.
That bottle refill station at the bathrooms is not the type that we would have standing free on the trail if we want to put it on the trail. And if you recall,
But even at T Street, you couldn't attach it to the building?
is there a fountain there already?
I thought there was.
I know. You have to have electric and a water source. So it just depends. And if you're down at the pier, if you look at that drinking fountain, it's dark green and it allows the dogs to drink water out of the bottom. And then it's just a regular drinking fountain. So, and like I think I mentioned before, those are pretty sturdy and resilient to vandalism. So Orange County Parks and Rec, their stations up in Dana Point, that's where I got some of that information. It was $7,000 to install that station, but that was a few years ago. So that's why I put the $7,000 to $10,000 range. And it's the maintenance cost that I'm asking Orange County Parks and Rec what it is to maintain those bottle refill stations up in Dana Point Harbor. So
Okay.
I know our maintenance person said $15,000 because he thinks it's going to get destroyed and basically, I guess, have to replace it a couple times. I don't know. So I'm trying to find information out on that.
Was that Randy Little that you spoke to?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll follow up also and get that information to you. I have some other sources with some water refill stuff too. And if you want to include it in that guesstimate or that estimated project cost, I'll leave that up to you.
Okay.
And I think the city council knows that those are subject to change depending on availability and the laws of supply and demand, especially in this COVID times right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me, but thank you for catching that.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. I think we are, that in mind, I think we're ready for a motion. Gary, you wanted to make the motion?
I move, I gotta go find the page now. I move to approve the fiscal year 2020-21 work plan to be reviewed and approved by City Council and to authorize the chair to speak on behalf of the Coastal Advisory Committee at the City Council meeting at which the work plan is presented.
And do we say as amended?
You mean for the little, I don't think that matters whether she puts 5 to 10,000 or 5 to 20,000.
No, but in your motion, you need to say as amended because we made changes to what she presented to us.
I don't think.
Well, I think that's implied in my motion. The one that we discussed is the one that's approved with all the changes that we've made.
Okay, so as amended then.
It's not as amended.
It's not really amended, it's just we've corrected it and now we're approving it.
Yeah.
This is the approval, not the amended. This is the final approval. If it's going to be amended, it would be after the motion.
It's going to be amended, yeah.
Whatever, okay, I agree with you. Doreen? Aye.
I'm seconding. Do we
Okay,
have a
there we
second?
go.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask for, I'm so anxious to get this moving.
I'm full, thank you.
So Doreen is giving a second to Gary's motion. Cynthia, do you have that?
Yes, I have.
Alrighty, and then let's go to Chris.
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And myself am an aye. And Gary, you made the motion, so you are an aye, yes. So we are 5-0 in favor of submitting this work plan with all of the work that we've done on it today and the previous meeting in
Okay.
August.
Yeah, Doreen as an aye. I know she seconded it, but
Oh, sorry, yeah, aye.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I got the aye. I got the thumbs up from her.
Okay.
Anyway, okay. Alrighty. That said, thank you, Gary. Thank you, everybody, for that discussion. Let us move along to communications. Bacterial monitoring reports, Cynthia?
Yes, because this Coastal Advisory Committee meeting was kind of earlier in the month and we had Labor Day, we were not able to compile the bacteria report and the environmental program update in time for the printing of the agenda. But we'll present that at the next meeting for August. This would be the August bacteria report and then environmental program update for August. So sorry, we didn't have that information available.
So in October, we will have that information.
Yes, at the next meeting. Mm-hmm.
Will we have September's also?
I hope so. Yeah, by the time, when I printed this, the bacteria report was only through August 18th, so hopefully September data will be available in time for the October meeting.
Okay, all right. Reports. CAC members, reports. Does anybody have a report on a specific thing that you signed up to do? I see no lights on. Okay, thank you. Let's go to city staff. Cynthia, do you want to give us a brief update on the Clean Ocean Fee renewal?
Yeah, the Clean Ocean Fee renewal update. Right now we are sending information over to the consulting firm who's going to be doing the fee analysis, and this includes the secured tax roll and the parcel data information. We've sent that over to them, and they may have some questions. Dave and I are finalizing the baseline program costs, as well as operations and maintenance for different projects that are out there, like diversions or the diversions like up to the MO2, and then the CIP projects. We're getting close to getting final on that cost amount. So we should be able to bring back to you in October a little bit more detailed information.
Okay, I hope so. Good. And the Coastal Resiliency Plan, please give us an update.
So I forwarded the email to you from Gabriel Perez in that the California Coastal Commission did not approve the amendment to the land use plan. And under the land use plan, is the implementation plan, and then under the implementation plan is the coastal resiliency plan. So because the amendment to the LUP was not approved, the implementation plan and the coastal resiliency plan are on hold. And planning will provide an update in future meetings when more information becomes available.
Okay. Well, the Coastal Commission did not necessarily reject the language. They had one person who was willing to work with the city. However, my understanding from the letter from Cecilia was that the city pulled it because they didn't want to have a vote of no on the record, which might set a precedent for other cities as well. So they pulled it so that vote wouldn't have been taken. So it wasn't disproved. It was pulled before they could vote on it.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to clarify for everybody because it makes a big difference. So at any rate, that said, Cynthia, do you want to give us an update on Coastal Cleanup Day month?
Yeah, I mean, there's ads in the paper, but we haven't printed posters yet. I don't know if I can get anything printed. And I mean, this is a challenging time because next week I'm not in the office at all. I'm working from home due to COVID. So getting posters printed, because I know you and I have talked about that, trying to get those distributed.
We did.
I mean, I could try and get the posters printed, but I wouldn't be able to get them posted until the week of the 21st. But I don't know if the Coastal Advisory Committee would want to walk around town, and see if there are businesses that might want to post the posters. If so, if you're willing to, then I could see about getting them printed next week.
Well, I could probably do Del Mar. Can any other member do up by the Pico area and also the Las Maras area, and maybe even in Talega? There's certain pods of locations where we could put some posters. We don't have to paper, every window, but just in some key popular places where there's people that frequent.
If I could help out in Talega, although most of our stores have been shut, there's no one, I think 4 of our restaurants have closed.
Okay.
The shopping center, but.
Okay. Anybody else? Could anybody else help?
Right? Yeah. Sorry.
Nobody else? Okay. Let's you and I talk, Cynthia, to see how much money that would be. I would probably, I know I would be comfortable doing Del Mar, but somebody really should do that area up there by Sprouts, and it goes across the freeway to Trader Joe's. Because there's a lot of businesses in there that took posters last year. Maybe there's some volunteers that could be included. I don't know. So far there's only 2 of us. If you can think of any volunteers, Cynthia, that want to help the city, or maybe Beaches, Parks and Rec volunteers.
Well, I'm sure Parks and Rec, they could post at their community center, but I don't even know if people aren't even allowed to come to the community center to go inside.
Yeah, I don't think that's open. No, because I went there to get something and it was closed.
Yeah, and the library is probably still closed.
It's still closed.
Yeah, so it's more of
the active places.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
I could see if some high school students, maybe the environmental club.
would you? That would be great.
Yeah. The other thing you could do, Cynthia, is post it on Lion's Heart as a volunteer opportunity. And there's always Lion's Heart groups looking for things that they could do during COVID that are safe. So.
Do you have information or contact for Lion's Heart?
Yeah, I could send you something.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Great. Thanks, Doreen. That would be very helpful. Okay, and then I could see if I could post them at state parks, at all the park locations or the beach entrances. I'll find out about that.
Is the state park open?
Not fully.
Yeah, but partially.
Yeah. Let me look into that. I'll make a phone call and I'll let you know.
That might be kind of fun anyway for state parks is, while people are camping, they could go to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Walk around and do a duty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll look into that.
Okay.
Let me get in touch with you next week then.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll try and get an estimate from a printer on how much to print.
Okay.
I've got money for that. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Maybe 25 to 50 posters. I'll look at a range.
Well, Doreen, how many could you put up just from the storefronts that you're thinking about right now? Oh, I can't hear you. There
I
you
would
go.
say less than 10. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, 5 maybe. I mean, because I guess I could visit Pico Plaza, where the Office Depot, Walmart, and Albertsons, and then the other one is the Talega.
Oh, that'd be great if you could do that. Yes. Good. Okay.
And what about the schools? Are they in person yet or no?
No.
Yeah, the private ones are. So
Oh.
private elementaries are open,
Okay.
and then, yeah, but the public schools won't be open in time.
Not till towards the end of September.
Okay.
So we're probably not going to have the turnout. But please, when you do that ad in the SC Times again, don't forget to ask to add that Thursday. I mean, any other day. You can also choose any other day but Saturday.
Yeah, I think there may have been an ad in today. I'll double check and look at it. Or it might go in there.
There was an ad, so it wasn't in there.
It
It was your
not?
same ad. No, your ad was in there the same way that you published it last week.
Okay, yeah, I didn't.
So it needs to be corrected so people know that they can pick up trash any other day or debris any other day and it would still count.
Okay.
Thank you. And I sent you that and you forwarded all that information on to CAC members, remember? It was in that top 3 paragraphs of the Coastal Commission narrative.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And if you can't find it, if you deleted it, let me know and I'll resend it.
Okay.
All right, and then Cynthia, your last item, Heal the Bay Nowcast model.
Yeah, so this is an item on your work plan, and it was quite interesting because the Nowcast model had the Marine Tower posted as a poor grade in mid-August, and I went back and looked at all of the data and for this year and last year, and that site has not exceeded bacteria water quality objectives. It rarely exceeds bacteria water quality objectives. So I emailed Heal the Bay and let them know that, okay, what's up with the model? You know, here's our little pilot project, and this particular site, I was comfortable, they were going to do it anyway, right? But I was still comfortable with that site because it hasn't exceeded, but then the Nowcast model had that as a poor site, had it as yellow. So there's concern about that, and so I will forward you the response from Heal the Bay.
Okay.
I'll send that to the CAC.
Okay.
To let you know. Okay, I'll send you it has my email and then their response.
Okay.
So, you know, it's on the work plan. I want you guys to be aware that it just happened to, it wasn't matching what was real time. So that's of concern for me when the public's looking at the Nowcast website and seeing that the Marine Tower is a poor site. Well, really, the water quality data indicates it is protective of public health. So that's where the concern comes in.
Well, then it's a good thing that we have it on our work plan to evaluate the efficiency and effectiveness of the program.
Yep.
Okay, so that said, any items, we're looking at potential future agenda items. So that would be on our last page, and we're looking at October. And There's two things on there right now, the clean ocean fee that Cynthia also already mentioned, and the pure bacteria source characterization study update. Just as a placeholder until we hear more, I'd like to add the coastal resiliency plan with the acknowledgement that it may not get on that agenda based on the timeliness of when Cynthia knows more about its availability. So I'd like to just put it on as a placeholder for October. And if not, we'll just move it to November. Or whenever we can find out when we can know more about the coastal resiliency plan. Because it's obviously printed, there's a PowerPoint demonstration of it because they were presenting that to us in March. But we did not have a March meeting. Anyway, it's my belief that the things that are in the coastal resiliency plan are things that Coastal Advisory Committee would be interested in knowing and also promoting. So we should know about these things, whether they're effective as an official plan right now or just as strategies that are being recommended. That's my 2 cents worth. Anybody want to comment on that? Anybody have any objections to adding that to our agenda? Because Cynthia likes to have a quorum vote on this. Can I go to Jareen? Jareen, would you mind if we added coastal resiliency plan to the October agenda in case it becomes available to us?
I'm good with that.
Gary?
I'm good.
Okay. Chris?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes, good suggestion.
Okay, thank you. And I'm a yes, so that's 5-0, Cynthia. And then any other recommendations? I think you sent a note out on, we see this on future meetings. You have some ones that Jareen had mentioned in months past. The Railroad Impact Study, which was affiliated with the Caltrans grant. And she and I both talked about the Ocean Protection Council strategic plan and perhaps getting a speaker. And they have a new plan out right now that has some agenda items pertaining to plastics as well, and perhaps some funding for some kind of programs, and also for coastal resiliency. I haven't had time to go into those agendas deeply. They just came out this past week, and I think I got a 2-week notice on it, but I haven't read all of the agenda items for those 2 items. I will, and I'll get that information to Cynthia if you don't already have it. And I'd like to see that on a future agenda, maybe in November. If not October, maybe it can be bumped up to October if we don't have the coastal resiliency plan. And then the Habitat Restoration Project presentation is also one that Jareen mentioned, and she's taking a little break right now. I don't see her face right there. So when she comes back, we can have her address those 2 issues. In the meantime, those of us who are still present, does anybody have any other suggested future agenda items? Gary, anything on your mind?
Nope.
Jareen, you're back. I'll let you address future agenda items.
Yeah, I think as far as the railroad study, I think the thought there was just really trying to see if they had reached out to the city yet and what city involvement there has been, and if there's been any sort of proposal for the rail line right of way within our city limits and what that would be.
Yeah, so I'll reach out to Gabriel Perez, city planner, and see if there's any movement on this impact study and if the city's been contacted.
Yeah, and then I think Susan and I had talked about for the State Ocean Protection Council, maybe reviewing, I guess there's an upcoming meeting, and then one of us would reach out and see if there was either someone that could come and talk about the state's plan and sort of the intersection with what cities are doing in clean oceans, or maybe they could provide us with some guidance or something like that we could present ourselves.
Yes. And that's in their they're calling it a 10-year plan. So we'll see what they have up their sleeves and get back to you guys. So those would be good agenda items for future And I had suggested, particularly with the ocean protection, Jareen, that if we don't have the coastal resiliency plan in October, which may well we won't, then we would just see if we can at least get some of the major topics, like the item on plastics and the item on coastal resiliency, those two at least on our October agenda that would take the place of the coastal resiliency plan if that's not coming forth.
Okay.
Okay. And then, so Chris, do you have any agenda items that you would like to add?
No, I don't. Thank you for asking.
Okay, Joe?
I do not, thank you.
Okay. Well, guess what? It's 8:30, and where am I on the agenda? Alrighty, items from committee members. Gary?
Nothing.
Joreen? Anything to share, Joreen?
No.
Okay, Chris, anything to share that we want to know about or anything like that?
I do not.
Joe?
I'll be out of town in October, so it's possible I won't dial into that meeting, but I'll let Cynthia know for sure as it gets closer.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I have something to add to that, too. I don't think I'm going to be able to make, because our next meeting's October 8th.
Is it? I don't know.
Is that right? The
Yes,
second?
that's correct.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I will not be available for that meeting. Got
Okay.
a medical thing I have.
Okay. So that's at least one missing, maybe two, correct, Joe? Or
Yeah,
Joe,
that's
are you?
correct.
Okay.
That's correct, yes. Likely I will not be able to attend.
Likely you will not be able to, so that's two. So we would still have enough for a quorum, though, if we all came. Myself, Gary, Chris. I don't know. No, do we have enough? Yeah, just barely, okay.
Yep.
But we might want to consider, let's just see what comes on our agenda. Maybe we would postpone the October and just do a November. Food for thought. Anyway, okay, so I asked Cynthia to send to you, I received an article from Nancy Caruso. Remember Nancy, the kelp lady? She was one of our eco warriors that we had speak to us a couple years ago. Doreen's giving me the thumbs up. I got a letter and an article from the Orange County Register that was just published on September 7th about Nancy and the work she's doing. And so I asked Cynthia to send it out to everybody. I don't know if you probably didn't have time to do that today, Cynthia, did you?
To review that article?
To send it out to all the coastal advisory group?
Yes, I sent it out.
Oh, okay. Well,
We all got it.
okay, so you have that in your mailbox. And then Cynthia sent out to all of us this great article from the Register also on plastic food wrappers now being globally #1 trash item. And they're second still behind cigarette butts in California. But that's very newsworthy considering when we're talking about doing, not only cleaning the beaches that we've done in the past, but also considering cleaning the neighborhoods and places we love, right? Which is a campaign for September. I had some other things, but I will save them because now it is 8:33 and I know that we're trying hard to stick to a 2-hour limit. If anybody else has one last comment to make. Dave, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just real quick, I want to thank the chair and the committee members for their service on the CAC and development and approval of the work plan. I know it's been challenging with the last 2 Zoom meetings, so I really appreciate everyone's effort, and I think it's a very good plan that will go forward to council.
Thank you for those compliments. I hope all of my committee members heard those and jot that down in your notes. So anytime we're faltering, look at Dave's compliments. Or what's the word you're saying, Cynthia? After all, this is going to be on YouTube, and since it's on Zoom, it's going to be, those words will be there forever.
Perpetuity. Yep.
Thank you very much. Anyway, thank you. And of course, we're thanking you too, Dave and Cynthia, for your assistance with that. We appreciate working as a team. We're far more effective and efficient that way. So thank you very much. With that, who would like to adjourn this meeting tonight?
I move to adjourn to October, what is it?
8th.
Eighth.
October the 8th, 2021.
You have to read it exactly.
Oh. okay.
2020.
Yeah, 2020.
2020, sorry.
Yeah.
I move to adjourn the Coastal Advisory Committee to its scheduled meeting for Thursday, October 8th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. via teleconference.
Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, all of you. You're just great committee members. I'm so blessed to have you working with you. It's just really a blessing. Good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great weekend.